In this video, we are talking about 7 players that you need to add immediately in fantasy football after week 7, plus 5 players that you must stash now to get ahead of your league mates. But before we get into it, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, the waiver wire options aren't great this week, so we're going to give you some sneaky ads, some obvious ads as well, but some guys that you should get this week before they break out next week. But let's start with my number 1 ad of the week. Joan Jennings for the 49ers should see a much larger role now that, unfortunately, Brandon Ayuk out for the year with that torn ACL. Jennings is going to be very fantasy relevant for the rest of the year, and we saw what he's capable of. We saw his ceiling in week 3 against the Rams, 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, 46.5 fantasy points. And yes, he's likely going to never have a performance like that, probably ever again in his career, but he's an underrated receiver on a good 49ers offense with a massive opportunity in front of him. Jennings is 3rd in yards per route run this season and 4th in PPR points per route run, behind only Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, and Chris Godwin. Jennings was out last week due to a hip injury, so monitor the practice reports this week. But regardless, he is a must-add in all formats, no matter the league, shape, or size. He's going to be serviceable. He's going to be a boom-bust guy, but with the options on the waiver wire this week and him being a quality receiver on a good offense, makes him a strong add this week for your fantasy team. Ad number 2, Kimani Vidal, the Chargers rookie running back, is honestly an injury away to J.K. Dobbins to being a league winner, to being an RB1 in fantasy. No, we're not wishing for an injury to Dobbins, but J.K. has a really extensive injury history, and I think it's fair to call Dobbins injury prone at this point. So obviously you want the running back behind Dobbins, and Vidal just happens to be a really good back. We saw him flash in week 6 where he scored his first NFL career touchdown on that 38-yard reception down the sideline. And if you didn't know any better, you would have thought that that was Austin Eckler because they look very similar. And that's a good thing. That's a compliment for Vidal. And he's a good player as he ran for over 1,600 yards last year in college, which was 2nd in all of college football, along with finishing 2nd in broken tackles with 94. Kimani is an athletic back with nice burst, speed, agility. He's like a bowling ball sitting at 5'8", 213 pounds, and he's on a Chargers team that we know wants to run the football with Gus Edwards on IR. And even when Edwards returns, I think Vidal is the clear number 2 in this backfield on a really good Chargers offense that, like I said, if Dobbins were to get hurt, then Kimani would be a league winner. So these are guys you want to add onto your team, stash on your bench, talented young players that could absolutely blow up if something were to happen to the starter. Ad number 3, Cedric Tilman. Someone had to step up for the Browns with Amari Cooper now in Buffalo, and that guy just happened to be Tilman, who I think at this point is the Browns' best receiver. He exploded for 8 catches, 81 yards, 12 targets, and 18 fantasy points. He was 2nd in routes run, 25% target share, and tied David Njoku with a 31% first read share, with Deshaun Watson done for the year, unfortunately, and DTR having that finger injury potentially. I don't know what the Browns are doing. I don't know why Jameis Winston wasn't the quarterback 2 last week. He was the emergency quarterback. Like, are they trying to tank at this point? Hopefully not, because if Winston is under center, that is a huge boost to this entire offense. Njoku, Nick Chubb, and for this video, Cedric Tilman. So I like Tilman. He's going to be a boom-bust guy, especially with Winston under center if that is what ends up happening. But he's a guy that can put up big numbers, and we already saw it in this game. 8 catches, 81 yards is pretty impressive. And I think Tilman would be a strong spot start in week 8 against the Baltimore Ravens. We know you can pass on the Ravens. You can't run on Baltimore, but you can pass, as they've allowed the 12th most PPR points per target to perimeter receivers. So if you're in desperate need for a wide receiver and Winston ends up being the QB1, I think Tilman could be a nice addition to your team for the rest of the year. At number 4, Javon Baker. Has Javon caught a single pass in the NFL yet? Has he done anything in the NFL yet? No, he hasn't. But I think that he just might be the Patriots' best, most talented receiver in New England, just doesn't know it yet. And yes, this wide receiver room in New England is crowded, but it's crowded with a bunch of average guys that aren't very good. And I really think that Baker needs to be given an opportunity. Yes, we do like Demario Douglas. We do. That's probably the only guy in this wide receiver room that I like, that I think is explosive. Baker needs to be given an opportunity, especially everything that happened with Jalen Polk last week. He couldn't catch anything. He left the game with a potential concussion. It's time for the more talented rookie in Baker to just give him an opportunity. I don't understand why not. As he showed nice rapport with Drake May this preseason, and Drake May has really impressed through his first 2 starts as he ranks 3rd among 36 quarterbacks in catchable ball rate on passes traveling 10 plus air yards. So he's been playing really well. So why would you not want potentially the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 for New England? Yes, I'm forward thinking here. Maybe Baker is inactive again. I doubt he is. I think he's going to get an opportunity. So get a talented guy that has question marks and a lot of upside that surrounds him onto your team now before he potentially goes off in week 8, in week 9, and then you have to pay up for him. I really like Baker as a prospect. Yes, Hunter Henry is a reliable option in this offense for May, but it's just about getting a guy that we haven't seen much of yet with a talented quarterback on an offense that's starving for playmakers, that's likely going to be playing from behind often. If you have an open spot on your bench, I would add Javon now and then wait for the potential breakout. I told you I was going to throw some guys in here that are a little bit sneakier of ads. They're not these mainstream ads, and I will admit, Baker, very speculative ad considering he's shown us literally nothing in the NFL. But if you have an open bench spot, get Javon on your team now. It doesn't hurt. It's going to cost you nothing. And I really like his upside the second half of the year. At number 5, KeAndre Miller saw his first touches of the NFL season in week 7 with the Saints getting demolished by the Broncos. They had no reason not to put him in there. And I think he looked pretty solid. Finished with 6 carries for 36 yards, 6 yards per carry. Miller was one of my favorite running backs coming out of college last year. And then his rookie season was derailed by injuries. But when Miller is healthy, he is a special back. We just haven't seen it at the NFL level yet. But his final year in college at TCU, KeAndre ran for nearly 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns while averaging 6.2 yards per carry. He's a talented, explosive, 3-down skill set back with nice size-speed combo, impressive hands. He can catch the ball. Sitting at 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, nice top-end speed. Kind of looking like it might be a lost season for the Saints after they started out scorching hot. It's probably a little bit too early to declare it over for New Orleans, but losing Rashid Shaheed for the year, Derek Carr, who knows when he's going to return. So it is possible that Alvin Kamara gets traded before the deadline. I know he said he doesn't want to be, but if he were to get traded, KeAndre would be an RB2, RB1 for the remainder of the year. So these are guys you want to get on your team. You want to get on your bench now. And even if Kamara doesn't get traded away, I think KeAndre is going to have a role in this offense. He just needs to stay healthy. He's a really talented back who hasn't been able to showcase his skill set yet. And once he does, he's going to be hard to get off the waiver wire. He could potentially be expensive, so get him on your team for cheap now. At number 6, Romeo Doubs has been cooking ever since he got suspended in week 5. Over his last 2 games, 11 receptions, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, 37 fantasy points, wide receiver 6 over those 2 games. He continues to lead this Green Bay wide receiver room in snaps and routes run. And when you're on an elite offense with a brilliant play caller and a superstar quarterback in Jordan Love, then yeah, good things are going to happen. And his next 2 matchups are really nice against the Jaguars, Lions, 2 teams that you can throw the football on. The Detroit Lion game is probably going to be high scoring, so we like that as well. I will caution you with, it's a crowded wide receiver room in Green Bay. And yeah, Romeo has looked like the guy over the last 2 weeks, but any game, it can be a different receiver. It can be a big Jaden Reed game next week, and then the week after that, it's a big Christian Watson game, and then Dontavian Wicks. We don't really know. So just be cautious with your fab, because one week he can go off, and the next week he can have 3 catches for 39 yards just because of all the talent on this offense. At number 7, Xavier Legette, another rookie who hasn't shown his full potential yet, but I really like Xavier. He's a talented player. He's a physical specimen sitting at 6'3", 220 plus pounds, along with a 4.3 40, so he has blazing speed. And with the Panthers on their way to another 3-win, maybe 4-win season, it's another lost year. Even with Bryce Young on the bench, I would not be shocked at all if Deontay Johnson got traded to a team that needs a wide receiver that's actually going to make the playoffs, like I don't know, let's say the Kansas City Chiefs might come calling. It's very possible. With Travis Kelce looking old and washed, I would not be surprised if DJ does get traded. And then if he does, Xavier is going to be the clear-cut wide receiver 1. Even when Adam Thielen comes back, Legette is going to be the guy. And while Andy Dalton has cooled off significantly, I would still want the wide receiver 1 on this offense. They're going to be pass heavy, and Andy Dalton has shown that he can get it done. And Xavier is a rookie who could go crazy the second half of the year, especially if Deontay Johnson is no longer on the roster. So another speculative add, a guy you want to get on your team that has tremendous upside if everything breaks the right way for him. On to some honorable mentions. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall, we haven't talked about him, but the San Francisco rookie receiver needs to be on this list. Keon Coleman, who had a big game for Buffalo. I think he's going to be very inconsistent with Amari Cooper there now, but fine if you do add him. Along with Troy Franklin for the Broncos rookie receiver, Trey Tucker, Jaylen Warren, and Tua all need to be added. Onto some stashes, some guys you need to have at the bottom of your bench just in case the starter does go down. Blake Corum, I know Kyren Williams going crazy right now, but if he were to get hurt, miss the rest of the year, Corum would be a top 5 back the rest of the way. Tyler Algier, backup running back for Bijan, Trey Benson for the Cardinals, Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens, Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd, and Mike Williams for the Jets in case he gets traded to the Chiefs or the Chargers. But you want to get these running backs, these young, talented backs on your team now who are the RB2 on their roster, because if the starter were to go down, these guys would all be league winners. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you took away anything from the video, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and I will see you in the next one.